And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. You can get in touch with us on 22422. That is our SMS line. And at Citizen TV Kenya, at Citizen TV News, we go by those names on social media. That's Facebook and Twitter. Please use the hashtag Opinion Court. We'd love to track your conversation. Let me introduce my panel to you. To my immediate right is a man who I suppose also deserves some congratulations. He's just been appointed, rather nominated as the chair of the NSSF board by the Cabinet Secretary for Labour, Rachel Omamo. It is governance expert and economist Karevi Muremi. Congratulations, I suppose, to you.
Thank you.
We'll see how it goes in Parliament, right? In the middle is our resident political analyst, Edward Kisiangani. Next to him is Honorable Chege Mwaura. He's the MCA for Ngara, but also the Deputy Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum. Welcome to the program. And across from me, the Chair of the Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution, Charles Nyachayo. Welcome as well. We are discussing this extravagance that is taking place in counties, and to set the stage for that, let's take a look at a report that has been issued by the International Monetary Fund, and it has raised the alarm today over the government's intention to allow county governments to obtain overdraft financing from the Central Bank of Kenya. In a statement, the IMF warns that this move could expose the country to the risk of higher interest rates in the absence of additional safeguards on county spending. And as Dennis Otieno now reports, the IMF's word of caution comes at a time when county governments are coming under growing public scrutiny over wasteful spending. And there is the context of our conversation tonight. I want to start with you, Charles, to the extent that governors claim that they are powerless when it comes to controlling the members of county assemblies and how they choose to redistribute funds and spend them, etc. And that was best put to the example by Okoth Obado, the Migori governor. And basically, when 11 MCAs are on this trip, about how to spend garbage or something of the sort, how to get rid of garbage, and it's costing something to the tune of 5.8 million shillings. He says he's powerless. He can't do anything about it. Only the Speaker of county assemblies can. Is that really true?
Okay, first of all, I think let's put this whole discussion in context. I think it's important for Kenyans to appreciate that there is nothing peculiarly county or peculiarly devolved government about wasteful public expenditure. I mean, this is a problem we've had for a long time.
With both national governments,
yes,
before and now counties,
yes,
right?
But I do accept the fact that because the devolved system of government was intended to be an improvement, it was intended to be moving in the right direction, there is a sense that, like Caesar's wife, we expect more from the county governments in terms of accountability, transparency, and the prudent use of public resources. That said, I think I personally do not accept the argument of my friend, the governor from Migori, about being helpless. The Constitution is very clear. The laws around the County Governments Act and the other laws that apply across the board, like the Public Finance Management Act, they're very clear on procedures, especially in relation to the budgetary process, in relation to the mode of utilization of public expenditure, and the different roles, the role that the executive plays and the role that the assembly plays. And they're all subject to the Constitution, subject to the law. What
practically can a governor do if he thinks that monies are being misappropriated, funds are being redirected? What can he practically do?
Well, the governor can do what, first of all, the governor can do what every other Kenyan can do, which is, I mean, if the assembly indeed is, you see, there's a difference between decisions that the assembly makes, which the governor may not like. And when we talk about travel, for example, I think we must be careful not to condemn the whole idea of travel as a wrong thing to do. It's a question of what is in the best interest of the institution and the best interest of the particular county, and is it also, how is it rationalized? Now, all the constitutional and legal mechanisms for accountability, the audit processes and all the processes under the PFM legislation, they are all available. But what we keep hearing is we keep hearing sort of like blanket issues about which, for example, suggest that you know, if members of county assemblies travel, that in itself is a problem. No, I mean they could as well be wasteful with money right here in
Nairobi, or in their home host country.
But to answer your question, all the processes are for accountability and auditing are available.
Karithi, why then do you think there is no accountability? We have control of budget report. It's showing wastage. It's showing unauthorized diversions. Why aren't we seeing somebody stand up and stop it?
I think we need to be a bit practical. Accountability in as far as what I would call the assemblies, whether we call them county or national, that whole area is misused to the extent that you are like looking for favors as an executive. So one thing which all of us do, and this is something I was training the parliamentary chairs, and I was telling them all assemblies approve all corruption. There is no foreign travel the assembly will do which budget was not originally approved. Okay? So it's not that you travel because it had not been known that you will travel. What I'm saying in short is Kenyans need now to speak to the accountability value in Article 10 and challenge how come we are always short of the word accountability in whichever area. Because to be honest with you, the assemblies are borrowing heavily from the bad behavior sitting in the national. And the two are competing. Remember, they visit the same constituencies in the you know, every Saturday. A ward has whoever you call them MCA. It has an MP. It has a senator. The comparative on the drinking table at that level of the local constituency is I was in America. I was in, you know, all those things. So for us to tackle the word accountability, I would agree with Charles, we need very clear way of agreeing. We gave so many values in this constitution. Maybe we are not yet internalizing the value. Do we want to be accountable? If the word is yes, what is the auditor report? If the word is yes, where is the controller report? So to be specific to your question, the controller of budget is supposed to give every 4 months an update of budget implementation for both the county government and the national government. When the MCA receives the report, does the controller become, in quote, weak in not telling the Kenyan people that the truth in the report is 1, 2, 3? Because to me, those are the questions we need to be open. The final one, we improved the word participation in the County Government Act by over-involving a process of participation in the making of budgets. So are we exposing at the ward level the real issues from the controller's report, the Auditor General's, and the original budget, so that Wajiko at that level is discussing on a day-to-day basis the issues that are practical?
Yeah, public participation is a big question. Prof, let me put it to you this way, because Karithi has brought out the issue of, you know, the House basically abusing its powers. Was it an oversight on the part of the crafters of the Constitution to give county assemblies so much power in that one, they can approve, change, amend these budgets, and yet at the same time they can also take punitive action against those who would want to check on them, for instance, governors? Do they have too much power?
I think the problem in this country is not about too much power for the counties. The Constitution is very clear, and I think the framers of our Constitution were clear that there are institutions that check one another when there is a problem. So there was nothing like a lot of power. What has happened is that our institutions are not working. In many instances they don't work, and yet they have power to do that. And as a result of that, individuals take advantage of the fact that institutions are not working, so they do things the way they want. Let's take, for example, what my brother is talking about, Article 10, and specifically the question of accountability. it is the duty of every Kenyan, not even just the county government or the national government, to protect the Constitution. And you must protect the Constitution by observing the items that are specified in the Constitution. Now, everybody performs their own duties. You as a civil citizen, you can do your own duty, but who is supposed to check what counties should do? I keep repeating this thing. The failure in counties is the problem of Senate. And if Senate can work out, for example, in terms of legislation, if we realize that there is a weakness in legislation which controls the way things are being done in the counties, Senate can recall the legislation quickly and tighten the belt, because their work constitutionally is to look after the affairs of the county government. So if there are weaknesses, it can deal with that. Unfortunately, what you hear about from Senate is they look also helpless that things are happening in counties, and yet the duty of Senate is to look after the counties. So in the process, because they have been abandoned, the vacuum has been filled by these individuals who do things as they want. And as my brother has said, some of the senators have ended up in the counties, and they have even negotiated with the county governments on the use distribution of resources, even if it's not officially, and they have drunk a beer together. Some of the senators have seconded certain people to be appointed as ministers. I think, and if you go to
police's oversight bodies, I suppose is what you're saying.
Yes. So the Senate, the main failure of counties is not the counties. It's the failure of Senate. Today, if the executive arm of government, the national government, which Uhuru Kenyatta leads, starts doing things that we don't like, the Constitution is clear that the National Assembly must do oversight on the executive. So if President Uhuru is not doing things right, the first thing to say is, who is supposed to check this fellow? It is the National Assembly. And if the National Assembly doesn't do it, you focus on National Assembly. So in my opinion, our Senate has failed us miserably.
All right. You know, let me start on a very easygoing note for you. Shege, why are you the bad boys of devolution? Why are county assemblies just basically out of control?
We are not outrightly out of control. I think we are bad boys because there is a calculated misconception or a lopsided way of looking at it. And I'll give you a good example to it. Towards making of this year's 2015-2016 budgets, we were subjected to budgetary ceilings that the CRA okayed, and we had to go to Senate to negotiate any adjustment upwards. So first and foremost, we are under ceilings, which again, if you look at it from where we come from year 1 to year 2, there has been a great reduction in say foreign travel. And if you look at that, if you look at the budget of say the national, actually Parliament, National Assembly and Senate, vis-a-vis all the 47 counties, you will see the difference. I mean, I'm talking about 500 million for the 47 counties and about 1.4 billion for national parliament. So that is one. Two, again, understand that let me give you Nairobi, for example. The budget for the whole budget for Nairobi is 30 billion. The budget for assembly of Nairobi County Assembly is 5% of that, is about 1.6 billion. All right. Of the 1.6 billion, about 70 or thereabout is recurrent in terms of the structures and all that. So if there would be any issues like say travel or the ones you're looking at, we are talking of a smaller percentage compared to the say 27 billion that is being left to the executive to add the functions, which about 30%, which is about 10 billion, should be development that you should be seeing in terms of grass and in terms of roads.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that Nairobi grass later.
We never question that. We always.
Why don't you question it?
Yes.
That's your job.
No, we do because I'll give you a good example. In Nairobi, when Governor Kidero wanted to borrow 4 billion, borrowing, and which I think the IMF was talking about, when it did pass in the assembly, a couple of members went, which I was one of them, about 10 of us went to court and were able to stop it. So there are things that are not being highlighted, but we choose to mirror it on the county assemblies because we choose to make them look like the budget.
But let me also help. Just a dejection.
Go ahead.
Is right to the extent that you know some things are budgeted and they have their ceilings. But you must still address the question that Chairman Nyachai is saying. Why don't you even raise eyebrows that, you know, in your own county something is going wrong as citizens? But even after having said that, when Nyachai, you are also guilty.
Okay.
I think you are the chairman of CIC. What effort have you put in saying Article 10, which has this item accountability, is not being effected because money is being squandered right, left in the counties? Because also your duty, apart from Senate, is also to point out that the Constitution is not being observed, is not being implemented. The idea of accountability is not being implemented because people are doing things the way they want. How much have you done?
You know, Prof,
yes.
you've got your facts wrong. First of all, and by the let me express a concern. Earlier on, Prof, making his comments, used the word failure of the counties about 4 times. That worries me. Let's not give Kenyans the impression that the county governments have failed, because they haven't. Okay. We are addressing challenges to make sure that they don't fail. I mean the county governments are doing great things.
Fair enough.
But let's not say that they have failed. Now, I think, Prof, you get wrong what my job is. Our job, and what the framers of the Constitution actually contemplated as we oversee the process of the implementation of the Constitution and monitor it. Now, when there's a need to intervene, and that we've done many times. But ideally, what should be happening, because like now, CIC we will go home in the next 3 months. What was contemplated is that by that time, the institutions of the Constitution, including what we are discussing like the county assemblies, will actually have reached a stage where they are now able to do their work. Now, if we really want to talk about where the problem is, part of the problem we were discussing with Karezi beforehand, for example, there's a legal requirement for the national government to support in terms of capacity building. That's really one of the areas that we should
Charles, forgive me, let me cut you short. Why don't we see more direct action? For instance, action on this report that is on the table, which is from the Controller of Budget. Why don't we see action from the CID or from the DPP's office, or even from yourselves, to the extent that you're willing to nail the executors of, you know, who go off course when it comes to budgets, to actually take people to court and have them take criminal responsibility for negligence or for, you know, abuse of office?
Yeah, I think that's a good question insofar as the institutions that have that responsibility are concerned.
Are you not one?
No, we are not one. That's you see, then we would be doing everybody's job. We would be doing the DPP's job. We would be doing the Auditor General's job. We would be doing
you know, yesterday, yes, Charles, when you were in Eldoret,
yes,
you pointed out a very important point,
yes,
and I really admired you for that.
Yes.
You said if the perception of our people about devolution is buying a wheelbarrow at 109 shillings, then we have lost it.
True.
Why were you commenting on that?
Because
the reason why, before I finish, the reason why you are commenting on
very
that
quickly, Prof,
is as CIC you are extremely concerned that something is wrong.
Yes.
We want that voice. How consistent have you been with that kind of voice as CIC, even if you don't have prosecutorial powers, to make sure that people know that the Constitution is not being implemented because accountability is lost?
They don't have prosecutorial powers, but they can actually go to court.
Yes.
Yes. I think let's get a few fundamentals right. Wajiko created a new Kenya.
Yes.
The problem we are having is the old Kenyans, who unfortunately are the adults who are alive immediately the Constitution was passed, have excess old ways of doing things. So we needed capacity building even to the national government to understand what the devolution is all about. Because what we are sitting on, and let's not go around in circles, we are sitting on the excess appetite of eating. All right? That's why you are seeing the national government wants everything that county buys to be bought by the national government, because they are admiring the thing they are doing. Okay? The governor has been given a kingship mentality. So in his mind, he has excluded his cabinet. You see, when you go to the constitution, the county executive is the governor and his ministers. The way I hear is the governor is doing. I don't hear the cabinet say it. So what I'm saying in short is, we need a very radical agreement as Kenyans, now that we are 5 years down the line, that these old monkeys need now to be retrained.
How do you retrain them?
Now us.
How do you retrain them?
The retraining is the concept of capacity building that was contemplated in Schedule 4, needed to talk out. Let me give you a very specific example. Charles, you know, in item 17 on Schedule 6, we had the philosophy that the system called provincial administration will be restructured. What am I saying? We used to have district accountant system, which was supporting the original county government in the name of councils. Those district accountant framework, we removed them, all right, in the system of devolution.
I'm sorry, Karith, you have to cut you short. Please get your point.
So what I'm saying in short,
yes,
the county assembly do not have the technical capacity, like for example the parliamentary budget office equivalent, to help them ask the questions we want them to ask.
Sounds like you're saying that we need another talk shop to tell them to do what the constitution has already told them to do.
No, we need to retrain.
This is just a national conspiracy to
we need to
steal
accept
from the country.
that if you are birthing a new thing, you have to invest the time to make that thing become correct.
You know, and what needs to be done, and I want to you referred to that to the report. What needs to be done is that every constitutional office or institution or every organ must be held to account.
Yes.
When you talk about this report, the law is very clear on when the Controller of Budget or the Auditor General comes up with a report, the law is very clear on how that report is.
Who should act on it? Who should act on it?
Well,
there are institutions which
name them. Let's name them. Name and shame.
No.
Whose job is it to make sure that this massive document is acted on, because it has recommendations?
If you want to name, and Nyachai can help us on this, the concept of the constitutional chapter 15 commissions and the independent offices, which now include the DPP, the police, you know, all those names. So anytime this report comes out,
we should be hearing from the director
of those offices
public prosecution
are mandated by the Constitution to implement the sovereignty of the people of Kenya.
Precisely.
All right, finally,
one
because
of those sovereignties is jailing.
Thank you. One of the sovereignties is jailing, and I think, gentlemen, that was the point of this conversation, that there are institutions that are supposed to work on this. We should be seeing action from DPP, from CID, from anyone else who can go to court, from a Kenyan watching on TV and saying something is wrong, action must be taken. But you have had little or no chance to speak, and I'll give you this last chance, Shege, because you're a Nairobi MCA, and one of the saddest things to see coming out of Nairobi, out of this report, is that we had the lowest absorption of the annual development budget at 9.4%. How do you explain that?
Well, again, it's also we don't develop. The assembly does not run the development budget. It is done from the executive arm. But then there's also the element of the procedures that are used in terms of releasing the money. And remember, Nairobi has an advantage that it also has a big collection output through the cash office that it has, because it generates more money than even the one that is coming from the national government. Biggest problem, I think, in terms of is misplaced priorities that are from the executive. And we try our best to ensure that things, you know, issues like this report is debated upon. And remember, even within the executive, there are lines of gaps, or lines that are supposed to be able to check that things are not being spent wrongly. First of all, we have the internal auditor, who is within the counties. Secondly, there is the controller of budget. The controller of budget is one who okays any money that is supposed to be spent. Then back within the line, once we get this report, is when we can be able to challenge. And we challenge these things once the money has been spent. So that is a problem, I think, a systematic problem that has been caused probably by the way the county government was set.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I am out of time. However, I do feel that we have made some progress, perhaps for the first time in a long time, when it comes to dealing with the misuse of county, funds, which is reports are out. The relevant institutions need to act on them, and Karithi, you said it best when you said some people need to be locked up, perhaps to serve as a lesson when it comes to the abuse of public office. Let's take a look at what you're saying online. Thank you so much. You're using the hashtag Opinion Court, and this is what you have to say about our conversation this evening. Counties should uphold principles of governance and public service for devolution to work. MCAs should play an oversight role, but they are the ones who mishandle our funds, which brings again the question of who polices these oversight bodies. Maybe you need your own ombudsman. Counties should be checked by the Senate, the Auditor General, EACC, and the Control of Budget. We are loading it so much on the county governments. Rome wasn't built in a day, so some defense for you. We're taking a short break. We're back with more news after this.